What's up, guys? My name is Aaron. Today I'm going to be reviewing Man of the Woods. This is the fifth studio album by Justin Timberlake, who is an American pop singer and occasional actor. I'm always looking forward to new Justin Timberlake music. He's like one of the best pop people making music alive. I've kind of been a big fan of his music ever since I was like aware of music as like an art form since I was like 11 or 12. I've grown up with his music since his days in NSYNC and his first album Justified, which I think is a great album. But Future Sex Love Sounds is where it kind of solidified him as like a great to me, because that album is just so inventive in the way they kind of blends genres together, and its take on pop music is just really kind of thought-provoking. I think that album to me is like a top 10 favorite of all time in my opinion. The 2020 Experience is a great album as well. Not a big fan of the second part. I think that could have been just like a couple of extra tracks for the first one, but I still think the first one is a really great album. So I'm always up for new music for Justin Timberlake. But this album I was a little bit apprehensive about when I saw the trailers and the promos for it. It looked to me like he had just discovered Bon Iver, and he was like, okay, I'm going to do a Bon Iver album. I went into it with an open mind. Outside of that, I always try to give him a fair shot. While I do think this is probably his worst album, I do think this is still an enjoyable album overall if you really don't think about it too much. You know what I mean? The production, I would say, is probably great throughout. It's mostly helmed by the Neptunes and some stuff from Timbaland and Eric Hudson, so it has some of that trailblazing production that they're known for, but this time it's blended with like Americana and country sound. Outside of more traditional pop R&B songs like Filthy and Supplies, the production is a lot more funky and more blended than usual. Midnight Summer Jam opens with like this normal spoken rap intro, but then it kind of explodes with this like fiddle, skittering drum, and a bubbly bass. It's really danceable immediately, and I just think it's one of the highlights of the album production-wise. Man of the Woods is basically a full-out anthemic country song, complete with the twinkly guitar chords, an absolutely killer bass line, and an infectious vocal performance throughout that entire song. Young Man has a traditionally playful and hard-hitting drums that are known from Timbaland, but it's kind of mixed with this funky old-school guitar line and an organ as well. This is kind of a change in Justin Timberlake's music, but the overall core of what made his music so unique, the Neptunes and Timbaland, and like how funky and kind of inventive they are production-wise, is still there. It's just kind of reskinned in a bit of a country folksy aesthetic, I would say. I also think the performance is really great too. Justin Timberlake is a great singer. He's always been a falsetto singer, and I think he puts that to great use throughout this album. Like the song Montana, where he kind of slides into this funky Neptune sound effortlessly, and sounds like he'd fit right in on a Motown record. He and Alicia Keys sound really great on the song Morning Light, which is more of like an old school sounding love song. On Flannel, which is unapologetically one of my favorite songs on the album. I know that it's not great, but I just love the whole vibe about that. He fits in with like the lullaby aspect of it, and it kind of has this like weird sleepy trap folk country aesthetic. It's just a really catchy song, I feel like, and even though it's kind of goofy, I would say, I still like it. The Hard Stuff, which is probably the most outwardly country song on this album, and I think my favorite on the entire album, is like a really emotional song, and his performance really sells that. I think vocally the dude still got it on this album, and that's not really up for debate. I think he's still really great, I think, vocal wise. But the major thing about this album is that it's lyrically his weakest. There are some outliers like The Hard Stuff, which is talking about how he wants a relationship with problems and fights because that's how he knows when it's real and meaningful. There's stuff like that are kind of on the fringes of this album, but the majority of this album is just like love and flirty songs. I'm not acting like this isn't what Justin Timberlake is known for. All of his lyrics on his previous albums have been mediocre at best, but just enough to kind of get through the song. But because of like the stripped down sound of this album, you really get to hear what he's saying a little bit more clearly, and it's not good for the majority of it. On the song Filthy, where he says like, what you gonna do with all that beast, just sounds antiquated and cheesy in 2018. On Sauce, he's like, I love your pink, you love my purple. I don't even know what that means, but it's just a bad line. I could go on, but this album is just basically filled with that crap, and I just wasn't a fan of it. I think it would have been better if he had just like sang oohs and ahs over the material as opposed to coming up with actual lyrics and words. I get that he's married to Jessica Biel and she's a gorgeous woman and she's probably like a really nice person and stuff. I'm sure she's someone that when you are with her or when you're thinking about her, you just words kind of just turn to mush, I would say. But for an entire like hour-long album, I really don't want to hear that at all. Like, it's just not appealing to hear. There are some meaningful songs on this album, like The Hard Stuff and Morning Light, but the majority of this is just kind of like bad love, flirty party songs with really bad lyrics, and just a really big step down from even his like mediocre at best lyrics in the past. I also think some of the production is a little bit awkward and kind of blending country folk with urban sounds. This album has been like described as modern Americana with 808s, and I think most of the time it works, I would say, but there's some kind of like goofy and kind of awkwardly executed production, I would say. Like Living Off the Land, I feel like it has this like hiccuping sound in the background that just really doesn't need to be there to kind of establish the hip hop sound that it's setting out to have. There are elements about Sauce that I like the kind of build up to the chorus, and I do like the harder rock sound, but I just think that it's just kind of like a mess overall, in my opinion. I get that Justin Timberlake and his producers are kind of going for a different sound, but to me it doesn't sound as organic or as natural as it could be. Overall though, I think this is an enjoyable album. I think there's a bit to like about it. I think that the unique production really pays off when it's executed really well, like a Midnight Summer Jam and Man of the Woods. I think Justin Timberlake's voice is still really strong, and I think it's really adaptable to whatever kind of sound that he's trying to go for. But lyrically, it's just distinctly bad, and I think that it shows a serious regression in his lyrics, and I feel like his lyrics haven't even been that strong in the past, and at 37, I think it's kind of ridiculous that he's coming out with this stuff. I think some of the blending of the genres was kind of goofy and kind of awkward in its execution, but I do think there's enough to slightly recommend this. So I think overall I would give this a 6.5 out of 10. To me, it's a bit of a disappointment, especially compared to his previous albums, compared to like his contemporaries, but I think it's still like an enjoyable album that I'm probably going to listen to in the future, a couple of songs here and there. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Man of the Woods. What are your guys' thoughts? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comments what you thought, and thanks for watching. Thanks guys. Bye.